All right, welcome back. In this next segment, I want to continue with this motorist and pedestrian example and think about the scenario of simple negligence. So, a different tort regime. Remember the elements of negligence: duty, breach, causation, and harm. So, in this case, under a world of simple negligence, the motorist has a duty of care to the pedestrian, and if he does not exercise due care, then he breaches that, and to the extent that that leads to harm for the pedestrian, then the motorist is liable. So, same probability, same costs. There we go. Same costs of exercising care. That stray mark there. I have the matrix pre-drawn, but I didn't put in the values because I want to think those through with you. So, in the scenario where neither party exercises care, that puts us in the top left cell. The pedestrian and the motorist do not exercise care, then what happens? There will be an accident, and but who will be liable? Well, that accident cost falls on the pedestrian, but the motorist has breached his duty of care and is therefore liable for damages to the pedestrian, so the motorist will ultimately have to bear the full cost of the accident. So in this case, the payoffs are 0, minus 100, because the motorist bears the $100 accident cost. Now, what if the pedestrian fails to take care, but the motorist does exercise due care? If the motorist exercises due care, then he's met his burden. He's not going to be liable for negligence. Will there be an accident? Yes, but those accident costs will fall on the pedestrian. So the motorist is out 10 for the cost of taking care, but the pedestrian is out 100 because there is an accident, and that accident cost falls on the pedestrian. Now, what about if the pedestrian does exercise due care? If the pedestrian exercises due care and the motorist doesn't, will there be an accident? Yes. Who will bear the cost of that accident? Well, initially it falls on the pedestrian, but under simple negligence, the motorist will have to compensate for the pedestrian for that harm. So you're out minus 10, minus 100. And finally, in the bottom right cell, if both parties exercise due care, then there is a expected cost of accident of $10, right? Because even though both parties are exercising due care, there's still a 10% chance of the accident. But if the motorist is exercising due care, they will not be liable so they're only out the $10 accident cost, and the pedestrian is out the $10 accident cost and the expected, precautionary cost, the cost of taking due care. Let me say it again. The motorist is out $10 for exercising due care. The pedestrian is out $10 for exercising due care plus $10 in expected accident costs. So there are the payoffs in our matrix. So let's think through the incentives here. If the, that's the eraser, I want the highlighter. If the pedestrian does not exercise care, then the motorist is looking at either exercising due care and being out 10, or not exercising due care and being out 100. Well, given those two choices, taking care is the appropriate action. It minimizes the cost to the motorist. If the pedestrian does exercise due care, then the motorist is out 100 if they fail to take care, and they're out 10 if they do exercise due care. So it turns out that the motorist has a dominant strategy because they're better off exercising due care no matter what the pedestrian does. Now let's think about the incentives for the pedestrian. If the motorist does not exercise care, that puts us in the left column. And if the motorist does not exercise due care, the pedestrian could exercise no care and be out 10, or exercise due care and be out, exercise no care and be out 0, or exercise due care and be out 10. So in this case, if the motorist does not take care, the pedestrian is actually better off not taking care as well. However, if the motorist does exercise due care, that was actually what is optimal for him to do, the pedestrian does not take care, they're out 100, but if they do take care, they're only out 20. And so in this case, what's the likely outcome? Well, there's the motorist has a dominant strategy to exercise due care. The pedestrian has a strategy in iterated dominance, because given that the motorist should exercise due care, the pedestrian is better off exercising due care as well. We end up down in this cell. Notice that both arrows point in. The purple arrow and the red arrow both point into this. This is what we call a Nash equilibrium. You don't have to tuck that away, but that is the term for it. So the likely outcome here is that both parties exercise appropriate levels of care, which is a socially better outcome than what we saw with no tort liability at all. All right, that's simple negligence. Let me stop here and then we'll pick up with the last couple.